So this is the title of the presentation. So I will talk about some transformation we have made, and it will not be theoretical speech, how to do it and so on. It will be very practical, so it will be history of the project which we had in our company. A few words about me. So I have 9 years experience as software developer. I thought quite good one, however, okay, you may dispute, it was quite far ago. And I worked in telecommunication company, mainly with billing systems. Later I have transferred to pharmaceutical company, it was Roche Poland. And I worked here as a software tester, starting from test automation. Later I have worked as performance tester. And recent months I have changed to another company, which is FIS Poland. But all this history here, which I will talk about, will be from Roche. Okay, oh, sorry. And maybe some background or what we have done. So this will be story about something which we call synthetic user monitoring. So it is part of testing, it's part of automation and testing, which is done on production system. So we are running automated tests on production system every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes, every 5 seconds, and we collect data from these tests. Tests are rather simple, sometimes maybe a little bit more complex, but generally for each application we are doing 1, 2, max 3 scripts. So it is not testing for application when you have a whole bunch of automated tests, but rather for each application you have 1, 2 scripts, something like to check if the application works and to check how it performs, maybe from different locations. So we had this system on some commercial solution, and we decided that we need to move to open source, and there are 2 reasons we had. One, the support from vendor was not very good, and second reason was that it was expensive. So we thought, okay, maybe when we switch to open source solution, it will be cheaper. However, it wasn't very simple, so not take, install, and everything works. We have run something like a project. Okay, so first we write down our requirements, so what we need from this solution. Then we have go to the market, so go Google, tell me what is application monitoring, synthetic user monitoring, and so on. So we have found about 20 applications here. Some of them were commercial, some of them open source. And in meantime, we have done some POC with Selenium. So if we can use just Selenium as is to do this, because Selenium is one of the most popular open source or more popular freeware tool for test automation. And we thought, okay, part of this is automate the script and then run it. And finally, we go to decision how we should go. If we should go of one of these tools, maybe compose something by ourselves. And when we had it, we installed it on Sandpit environment. So we set a Sandpit environment with 2 free servers with all the components we want. We played, okay, this module, that module, maybe this plugin, that plugin, if it works. So not only POC, we just say it is possible, but how it should be composed. But we try and catch some exploratory how to work with this. Then having this, we have created the test environment. So on test environment, we have planned to, in fact, create installation procedure. So how to install it in correct way. Don't install unnecessary things, don't install rubbish, just install it as it should be and test if everything works. And finally, we set up it on our production system. And last step was to migrate all scripts from current synthetic user monitoring system to this new one. Okay, so this is generally the approach which we should have gone. And yeah, part of the requirements, maybe not of them. So we should be able to create the synthetic monitoring script, generally for web applications. We had some more, however, 90% of applications which we wanted to monitor was web applications, some of them are different. So we thought, okay, eventually this 10% we can skip, we can do some other ways of monitoring. Okay, we need to define metrics. We need to send them. Just to clarify the landscape, we already have several different application monitoring solutions. However, none of them supported synthetic user monitoring. So one of them was open source solution, which we have called AMS. It was already established. And we planned to send the metric to this system, to have all metrics for server metrics, database metrics, CPU, and so usage, which we already has. In the same tool, we wanted to have our testing metrics. Okay, for sure we need to collect the data, some like metric name, application name, location name, and all these values, timestamps when this metric was captured, and all these scripts which emulates users should be run from different locations. Okay, some more requirements, because I'm fan of performance testing, so I thought, okay, we need to have some non-functional requirements, so how it should be scalable. It should support us with about 100 applications, 5 scripts for each application from different locations. We want to have central space to configure everything. We want to have the same script to run with different parameters, like for example with different username and password of different URL. And we wanted to have these scripts in version control system, so not just create it and put it, and then if you have some changes, overwrite it. No, we wanted to have new version and keep it. Okay, so market review. This Google and give me information how it works. So first conclusion, if you took top shelf solutions, so we have several, they are quite expensive and more or less at the same level, and price really depends on the customer size. We found some cheap solutions, however, they were not, they did not cover our requirements. And generally, synthetic user monitoring is not the most important part of the monitoring solutions. If you have monitoring solution, it usually is infrastructure monitoring. Sometimes vendors add some synthetic user monitoring, and mainly using Selenium WebDriver. So anyway, we'll finish with Selenium. And what we have found, okay, there is synthetic user monitoring. So synthetic user monitoring, so regardless if the user works or not, we are running the script and we collect some data. There is something like real user monitoring. So real user monitoring is, we had this speech today morning. So this analytics. So we add some hooks to the application or to the other layer, and we collect data from real users. And based on this, we can know, okay, how long does it take and so on. However, real user monitoring as well is expensive. So for small scale, it is even for free. But if you go with larger scale, it costs. So we thought, okay, maybe it is an option, but not for today. Right now, we start with our solution. And this is how it looks like. Okay, so this is our application which we want to monitor. On this application, we are running scripts from monitoring stations in different locations. In Basel, Switzerland, in Shanghai, in San Francisco, in Singapore, in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, so in different locations. And what is the stack which we are using? So everything is managed by Jenkins. So on each monitoring machine, we need Jenkins slave to start the script. We need Git to communicate with our software repository. So in our case, it was Bitbucket. And we run Python scripts with Selenium WebDriver and with Chromium. And eventually, we could add another browsers, but Chromium was, let's say, the easiest one. Okay, not the Chrome, because Chrome is updating by itself. Chromium we can update by ourselves, so we have more control here. And the script sends the data to Grafana stack, which was already in the company. Okay, so something more about the script. Script was written in Python. We have created a common library. So generally, the script is login and so on, do things, and one common library to be used by all scripts. And in this library, there are two major functionalities. So to measure response times, to add these measurements, and to send metrics to Graphite. So in fact, it was one line of code plus a library from Python. Selenium WebDriver with Chromium. So it was our interface to applications. And we have used parameters like username, passwords as environment variables, and it was very easy in Jenkins to set it up. And of course, in the script, we had this business logic, so what the script should do. Some example of a script, probably you do not see what is here. Maybe. So importing our library and just navigate, login, search, and so on. So all the business logics. And if you see, or maybe you do not see, it is some kind of decorator here. So under this is hidden all this logic which we wanted to measure response times, send them, and so on. I will describe it a little bit more later. So what was inside this common library? So first we have a class. I have named it metric. In this class we have methods like initiate, start, stop, fail. So whenever we start, so to start measurement, to stop, so in here we calculated metric prints it to the console, so it was visible in the log. Sends metrics to Grafana and fail. Okay, and other functions like get the parameter, start Chrome with auctions, and we found that, okay, waiting, so this is part of wait for object time, so implicit wait. Sometimes it did not work correctly, so we needed active waiting. So for some XPath which was found. So this active waiting was added to the library. Okay, and we have used decorators. So quite nice feature of Python. For example, let's imagine you want to you want to navigate to some URL and then verify if something was visible. Okay, and you want to measure whole thing. So first you need to create metric object, so to start it, then try to execute it, stop. In case if any error appears inside here, in case of an error here, you need to, for sure, take a screenshot, quit the driver, so not to leave the driver in the memory, and run this fail function, which will send information to Grafana that this particular metric is not successful but failed. Okay, and all this could be done with this measure decorator, which gets the function name and adds all these values, all these steps before and after our execution. So in this way, the code was much more clear, much more readable. Okay, what was going on Jenkins, on master? So it was control station for us. So we can keep whole configuration here. Of course, Jenkins involves actions on slaves. So we had two actions for each application. So one was transfer the script, so something like install, transfer scripts from Bitbucket and applies all compilations, things like this, and periodically runs the script. So once per 15 minutes, once per 5 minutes, executes the script, and the script itself send the metric and so on. In Jenkins, we could keep parameters, we can keep the passwords. From Jenkins, we can read the logs, so from the execution, what was visible. And of course, it shows the status if it is red, green, and so on. On monitoring station, we just installed the slave and everything else, Jenkins slave, everything else was installed automatically from Jenkins. Okay, and finally, we could have the fruit. So when we send the metrics to Grafana, we could have graphs divided by locations, by application, by each metric. We could calculate average, minimum, maximum trends over the year. So it was quite nice already solution. And if we configure it together with other monitors, we could have on the same graph data from CPU usage and response time. Okay. And additionally, what we have done, which we haven't expected at the beginning, but at the end of the project, we could use Python request module instead of Selenium, just to send HTTP, to monitor, so to automate application on HTTP level. So send request, send post, send get, use authentication and so on. And we have tried, so this was done. And SAP GUI, we have done a POC, so something which probably will work, so we could automate our SAP GUI using Python with Win33com client module and SAP GUI com object. So with this, we are able to log into SAP, do some stuff inside, run some transactions, and measure it. Okay, but it was not done in the production, so I'm not sure if we can run it in parallel. So here and Selenium, we could run several scripts in parallel. Here we haven't checked this, so just simple POC. Okay, and I'm afraid I was too fast. Maybe some questions. Could be in Polish if you wish. Generally, it was me plus my manager plus colleagues from the team. So I was, let's say, I have selected this, and I have set the proposal to manager. Okay, we have this tool which costs this money. We could have this tool which costs that amount of money, or we can create a selection from open source, and generally that we should use Selenium, we should use Python. It was my decision. In fact, to tell you something more, at the beginning of the project, I didn't know Python. I knew how C works. I didn't know Python. I didn't know Java. And we had a competition if we should use Java or Python, and we decided to use Python because I think it is easier to learn. Mm-hmm. So first, it is not validated part of the project. It is something additional. So it is not the application which really works, collects data on patients and so on. So it is not necessary to validate it. So this is first thing. Second thing, we can use open source. However, it should be tested. And it should be particular version. So we need to provide this validation procedure to test it, to verify it. Yeah, but it is not necessary that it must be commercial.
Okay, any more questions? We still have some time. All right, so if no more questions, thank you very much.